football without fans, isn't it? You play a football match without fans, you're getting it. It can be the greatest game in the world. If there are no people there to watch, it becomes nothing.
Into Johnston. Johnson. And a goal by Johnson. Larson. Oh, he's in. Henrik Larsson! That is sensational! Nakamura, he has done it! Isn't that just typical?
The game is over. The Rebels have won.
A star is born at Celtic!
Champions. That's who we are.
All right, guys, what's happening? Welcome to the
mate.
All right, mate. All right. That's good.
Is that got me? Fucking Danny Dyer there.
Aye. Tuesday TikTok. Today is the 15th of November, and it's myself, Paddy and James. How you doing?
Aye, all good, mate. All good. Yourself?
Aye. Not bad, not bad. I'm trying to think of like Australian jokes right now, but I've got a mind blank right now. Paddy, what's happening?
Smashing. Nah, all good, mate. Good to be inside. It's been pitching the rain all day, so aye.
Man,
soaking, pelting.
I had to go earlier on the day, man. As most people do, they normally leave the house, and it was fucking cats and dogs, man. It was so bad. Fucking awful. Aye, to the viewers, welcome. Hope you are all doing well on this fine Tuesday evening. So as you well know, unless you've been living in a cave, we now have about a month's break from club football. We now have the corrupt World Cup taking place in Qatar. So what we'll do is have a wee bit of chat about Celtic, where we are right now, and if we can, do an almost mid-season review. So in case any smart arse tries to pull us up and say it's not halfway through the season, I acknowledge that. We're only 15 games in. But let's look back, because we've got a month. We've got a hiatus of a month of international football. So let's look back in Celtic's performance. Let's try and grade them. Talk about the highs and the lows. Also talk about Europe as well. Even though the majority of us probably don't want to talk about Europe. I find it a difficult subject right now, Europe. And of course, let's talk about the World Cup. Aye. So, welcome to the viewers. Hope you're all doing well. And of course, hit the like button. If you've never subscribed before, then you don't need to apologise, but just please hit that subscribe button. Paddy, who do we have in the house?
Everybody.
Good.
We've got Red Scotland, Feed the Bear, Paul McFarlane, Gypsy King, Frank Kennedy. How's it hanging, guys? Not bad, mate. Just kind of slightly to the left a wee bit. Whoever else.
Is that an Australian term? How's it hanging, guys?
No, mate, that's my boss and my willy. It's kind of hanging to the left.
Aye.
Remember, it's a family show.
Yeah. Right. Aye. Talking about Australia, I think Paddy's internet is. Look at that face of Paddy. James, could you see that? Paddy, this kind of holy look about him. Right, aye, Paddy, your internet was sticking there, but you're back now.
All right.
Must
have been my terrible partner, mate. The internet is just going like, stop, mate, stop.
Right. Can't be that bad to fucking wreck the internet. So the boys are in Australia. The boys are back down under, and there's a total Ange love in right now. I see that Ange has been inducted into the Australian Hall of Fame. He's only in his 50s right now, but I guess they don't have that many characters to choose from to induct into their small Hall of Fame. I'm totally fucking talking him down right now, but I guess it's well deserved. He's flying the flag for Australia. He's coming back to his hometown, perhaps. Moy as well. He's going to the World Cup, but Harry Kewell, he's come back as well to his hometown. And it's a bit of a love-in. And Celtic are going to be playing a couple of games there. Who have we got? We've got the Sydney FC on Thursday, the 17th of November. And then on Sunday, we have Everton, the replacements of the Rotten Mob. But it should be a good one. Paddy, is it just going to be another kind of a couple of friendlies just like what we would see during pre-season. Watching and just hoping to get out of this.
I think there's a multitude of things that the club, the management, the players are hoping to get out. First of all, Mr. Hogg, how the devil are we, sir? Kenny's in the house as well. There's Feed the Bear. Who's this? Michael Ross. Hail, hail, new to the show. But not to the jungle. Stood in the jungle many times. Hail, hail. Thanks for stopping by. Aye. So obviously, going to Australia. It's absolutely soaking down here in Glasgow. The boys are going to be going for a bit of sun, a bit of a break. I know we're playing 2 games. We're obviously going to have some sort of intensive training, but it's the environment that you're training in. It's still good for the old vitamin D. It's good for the bones, good for the recovery. They will get a break. Again, it's another one of the kind of tours away. You'll get the camaraderie between the players. Guys will make kind of special bonds and got it kind of sociable stuff that goes with that as well. But as you said, mate, Ange is coming home. The homecoming of Ange. The hero returns. I believe he's been inducted into the Australian, I was going to say the Rock Roll Hall of Fame, but the Football Hall of Fame. which I believe he says he was very humbled by and very honoured to be a part of that kind of country's history, sporting history as well. So brilliant. It's a brilliant acknowledgement for his work, his effort, his dedication to the game and his dedication to his country. So he'll be going there, potentially be getting a chance to go back to his roots, his neighbourhood, go and see family, friends. But apart from that, like the people of Australia, we know there's a lot of expats. There's a lot of people who've grew up. It's like their parents have emigrated from Scotland, Ireland, yada yada. They've grew up hearing about Celtic. They probably grew up watching Celtic. Probably got Celtic heroes or Celtic supporters themselves, but they've never actually had the chance to see Celtic play in live. So this is a poignant moment for people like that. And of course, we could be unlocking the next generation of kind of worldwide Celtic supporters because when the show rocks into town, the spectators will have a look and people will fall in love with Celtic. So I highly expect that a lot of people to start taking Celtic as their team, and hopefully something that I'm personally hope is that we get a wee bit of news and Big Ange gets rewarded with a lucrative 3 or 4 year contract.
Aye, that'd be very encouraging. The cherry on top. James, from a footballing perspective, are you hoping that we tank both of these teams? Are you bothered? Do you want to see the youth like Rocco Vata? I think a lot of people will be interested to see how he does, particularly.
Well, I seen he's taking, was it Vata, Lawal and Robertson?
Scott Robertson.
If that boy must be due a testimonial, to be fair. He's been mentioned for that long, man. But not looking forward to it. No too fussed. You just hope for a few goals for the folks that's travelled, or obviously the folks who are there. I'm more looking forward to the kind of circus run about it, because I think you'll get a lot of interviews with Ange with the Australian media, and through his time here, I think his best interviews have been with Australian media. He seems a lot more relaxed, and I mean, you'd pay to listen to the guy read a phone book, man. So looking forward to that more than anything else. The games kind of take care of themselves, but a bit cliche, but I don't think Ange believes in friendlies, so I think we will see relatively strong teams for maybe kind of 45 to an hour or so before he makes the changes. But just go to, it's a cup in it. We will get a cup if we win it, so I think he'll be right up for it. And obviously, as you say, with everything that's coming with him, we're getting there, he'll want to win both games comfortably, I think.
I like that phrase. I've never heard that. You pay to hear him read a phone book. I just saw that.
Sorry, Gav, for jumping in there. Frank Brennan, how you doing, pal? I've seen you for a while, actually. Hope you're doing okay. One of my favourite footballers of all time. What are you laughing at? I'm being sincere. One of my favourite footballers of all time is the South African-born Australian called Craig Johnson, who started out with Middlesbrough and ended up at Liverpool in the 1980s and won everything. The name rings a bell. The name rings a bell. I wouldn't sit here and lie and told you that I knew exactly who he was, but I have heard of this guy before. So you need to tell us a wee bit more about him, mate.
I could probably only tell you about maybe like 5 players for that Liverpool team and the kind of the late 70s, early 80s. No, but I've not heard of him. But quite a lot of Australians, I say a lot, I'm kind of being economical with the truth there. A few of them have represented Celtic down the ages. James, you're a little bit younger than myself and Paddy. Which one do you remember the most out of all the Aussies who've donned the hoops?
Well, obviously, going back, it'd be Viduka would be the first, but more recently, obviously, Scott McDonald, Rogic, Roy. Scott McDonald, I feel Scott McDonald actually gets a bad rap. I don't know if it's just because he was a wee fat money guy, but I like Scott McDonald, and we get rid of Scott McDonald the same day we signed Robbie Keane, I think I'd be right in saying, and I feel still to this day that was a mistake. We should have held on to him, but obviously moving forward into Rogic, I mean his records speak for itself, and then your wee kind of obscure ones like Jackson Irvine. Obviously, we've seen him. Did you see him at turning up with the Viduka top? And then Daniel Arzani as well. Would never really get much a chance up here because of his injury. But I can remember them all, to be fair. But talking points. Sorry, it's going to be Scott McDonald and Tom Rogic, isn't it?
Aye. I actually remember, Willie Wallace. I think he's based in Australia, and he was criticising Brendan Rodgers, I think it was, for not playing Arzani. Was Arzani under Brendan Rodgers? Aye.
I think did he come on in a qualifier for Europe in these Cruciate or something like that? Have I made that up?
No, I think I can't remember the exact team, but something's telling me to say Dundee. It might have been a cup game. I really can't remember, but he came on and I think he got injured after about
a bad injury.
25 minutes, and he actually looked quite decent in the build up to that. But no, he took a right bad injury after that. And I think he was one of the guys like a Paddy Roberts. He was on like a 2-year loan deal for Man City, and he was literally injured for the majority of it. So, he came with a decent reputation, high potential.
Is he still kicking about? Is he back in Australia or something?
No idea, mate.
Who are we talking about? Scott McDonald?
Arzani.
I don't know. I couldn't actually tell you if he get called up to the Australian team. You know one guy who get called up to the Australian team? He's an 18-year-old Aussie, and Everton just signed him very, very recently, and he was like the best prospect in the Australian football. We were linked with him, but I think quite early on he made his mind up that he was going to go to the glamour of Merseyside, and so he signed for Everton. But I don't know much about him, but apparently the boy's got a bright future. So it seemed a prospect that we missed out on. Ange unfortunately wasn't able to use his contacts for, and John Collins was the first, I believe, to score Predator boots against them. I guess for me, McStay as well. He's over in Australia, a funny one, He did his time with Celtic, and he just buggered off to Australia for the quiet life and deserved it. You know what I mean? Aye. Out the Goldfish Bowl.
I told you that one. I told you that one about Paul McStay, didn't I, Gav?
When you did a job for him.
Aye. When I left school, I did a bit of the landscaping, and we were doing a job in a big fancy estate and that. And the only one house that had a bit of shitty motor, if you want to say it, that was like a blue Citroen Picasso outside the house, and everyone else has got BMWs, Saudis, blah blah blah. So anyway, getting all the stuff ready after trailer to go around and start the back garden, and chapped the door, and the next minute Paul McStay answered the phone. I was like, "Oh, Paul McStay!" But no, listen, he was a great guy. He spent a lot of time speaking to us, and that was him. He was just kind of getting his shit ready to emigrate to Australia. So he was telling us all about that. So I was a lovely guy, by the way, very friendly, very chatty, as you can imagine about Paul McStay. Great guy, very, very welcoming.
Another Australian who comes to mind is James. You mentioned him, Mark Viduka. I think it was a bit of a kind of protracted negotiation. Paddy, I thought you were shaking your head at me there.
Oh no, sorry, no.
Protracted negotiations for us to get Viduka, but eventually he came over and he was shit hot. But his exit from Celtic was under a bit of a dark cloud, and it kind of brings me on to the next thing that I'd heard about the Ronaldo interview with Piers Morgan. I've only heard snippets of it without going into too much detail. Obviously, Ronaldo, he feels like he's been betrayed by Man United, and it looks like one of the so-called greatest players ever to have played the game will be leaving in bad circumstances from one of the biggest clubs in the world as well. And I was just wondering, Viduka was one of those players who left and kind of created a bad atmosphere. I think it was Martin O'Neill who, when he joined Celtic, he phoned him up and he says, "Will you be in for training tomorrow?" And he says, "No, I'm in Australia." And Martin O'Neill was obviously just kind of like sussing him out to see if he could be counted upon. But Paddy, is there any other kind of players who, regardless of like how great their talent was, Celtic players who left in a bad light, they had a bad attitude, and you were kind of gutted to see them go, but at the same time, they painted themselves out as a bit of a villain?
I think
As you're thinking, there was a few people in the mid-90s who you either blame them or you blame Fergus McCann, people like Van Hooijdonk, people like Di Canio. Any players that come to mind?
definitely like your Van Hooijdonks, Cadettis, Di Canios, the three amigos, Andy Tom including that as well, but no in this kind of conversation as well. But he was one of the kind of superstar players for us at that time. But no, obviously when those three decided to kind of fucking spit the dummy out, it was like a waste of talent, waste of time, waste of potential. Because obviously Di Canio left to Sheffield Wednesday. We ended up with Reggie Blinker out of that deal.
Deal of the century.
Absolutely, absolutely not. Aye, so that was a waste. But I'm trying to think. Viduka was going to be my kind of answer when you started talking about Ronaldo. But I think other than that, kind of in most recent times, I think you're tough to say maybe Lee Griffiths, because he.
Sorry, mate. I was just going to say, I'm thinking maybe slightly to a lesser extent, wasn't involved in money, but in terms of sections of support turning against him, Kieran Tierney could be a shout, because there's people when he moved weren't they too impressed with his move after his comments and things like that. And then obviously going down to Arsenal and putting Celtic on his boots, which is just birthday killed pish to me. But he kind of turned sections of support against them when he left as well. I'm not one of them.
I don't know the guy personally. I know that Dale, he knows his family, but I would definitely defend Kieran Tierney against fellow supporters who would criticise him. Everybody's entitled to their own opinion. But one player who comes to mind, James, this might be a little bit before your time. Obviously, you'll remember the guy, but John Collins. Now, the circumstances about his departure, he was the first Bosman. From like a Celtic perspective to leave. He left to go to Monaco. A very, very talented player, and eventually went on to Monaco to Everton as well. I was gutted to see him go, because in the early to mid 90s, he was one of the shining lights to play for Celtic. One of the few people who could offer some entertainment to the Celtic crowds, and it was gutting to see him go. But I guess he wanted to show his six-pack off to the people in France, and he wanted to make more money. But that was one player that I kind of think of, Paddy.
John Collins. Unfortunately, mate, the only image I get in my the only image I get in my head when I think about John Collins is that kind of quoted moment when he became the Hibs manager, and he's you've got the young talent, you've got like Riordan, Gary O'Connor, Scott Browns, Kevin Thompsons, all that kind of guys, and John Collins apparently bursts in the door, walks in, looks at all these guys, and then just rips off his shirt like fucking groundskeeper Willie in The Simpsons and says, "This is what you should look like." And I think from that moment on, kind of everybody was just like, "You're an absolute bellend, mate."
Aye, very true, mate. Very true. Last week comment on Australia for Paul McFarlane. Australia could be Rocco Vata's time to grab his Celtic first team chance and impress Ange. I remember in one of the pre-season friendlies, Dylan McGeer got a chance. We were playing against Real Madrid. Admittedly, in that game, he did get knocked clean out by Nouri Sahin. knocked proper clean out. I think he must have woke up a couple of hours later in the hospital. But up until that moment, he was the best player in the park. He was probably the fittest, and that's why he was impressing so much. But James, what do you think? Rocco Vata, at some point, he has to get a chance. What do you reckon?
100%. It's not going to do him any harm, is it? Getting in amongst the first team, as we were kind of speaking about last week, it'll be a step up for the B team. Just hope he grabs it with both hands. I don't see, to be fair, not so much recently. We've been kind of coming back and scoring late goals and things like that, but I don't see any reason why we can't be keeping these guys on the bench, like your Rocco Vata, Ben Summers. Keep them on the bench, and if we're a couple clear getting into the last kind of 20 minutes, 15 minutes, just throw them on, give them a chance. What's the worst that can happen? You know what I mean? I'd be all up for it.
Very true. Very true.
And there's a very good comment getting back to the Kieran Tierney stuff. Forever and ever Celtic. Once I heard how close Celtic came to seriously hindering Tierney's career due to running him into the ground, I couldn't blame the boy for leaving. And that was a few of the things that kind of came out. Maybe not so much in the aftermath of leaving, but down the line a wee bit. That Celtic, or whoever was in charge, obviously I won't go into names and whatnot, they knew he had issues with his knee. I think it was his knee or his hip. Didn't give him the right amount of rest, continued to constantly play him in games. I don't know. But listen, the wee man that down to Arsenal, he's won himself a fantastic deal. He set his family up for life. He still loves Celtic. I'm pretty sure if we were on a job that we liked and we got offered maybe 4 or 5 times as much their wage, it'd be tempting. It'd be very, very tempting. So it didn't leave under bad terms for me, so he's always welcome back, hopefully.
Aye.
No, I'm the same. I agree with you. I just mean, I know there was sections of the support that did turn on him just with his previous comments and stuff like that. I just sort of throw it out there.
Yeah.
Aye, very true. And the other thing I would kind of think about with Kieran Tierney, he was still a young player whenever he went for Arsenal, and to force London on someone at that age, London is no for everyone. I can't stand London as a city. I've been there once, I wouldn't go back. But each to their own. But to do that to someone, to take them out their comfort zone, you know, and stick them there. I think he actually said it himself when he did that Netflix, when Arsenal did the Netflix documentary. He talked about mental health and how he, not that he was depressed as such, but he learnt a lot about himself, and he became much more aware of how vital it is to need a support around you to kind of cope with that changing environment. Interesting one. Right, guys, I guess one of the kind of topics that we wanted to talk about, of course, was a kind of an almost mini half-season report. So domestically and Europe, I guess we'll tackle both. I don't particularly like the Europe one, so we'll kind of scut over that. But why don't we talk about the rosy part in the garden, the domestic season so far? So, of course, we've only played 15, so don't get ahead of yourselves. But played 15, we've won 14, we've only lost 1. Goals, we've scored 50, we've conceded 13, and we've got a possible 42 out of 45 points. So for me, that's a 5-star performance. But I wanted to kind of get your thoughts, guys, and break it down. Obviously, with the Premier Sports, if you want to call it, the Viaplay Cup that we're through to the semi-final now. But I was going to break this down into your most memorable game domestically, the best moments, the standout performer, and also room for improvement. And room for improvement it can be anything. It can be ambiguous, whether it be VAR or a Celtic player or the defence in general, tactics, anything at all that's a bit of a bugbear for you. So, Paddy, what's your most memorable game so far domestically for Celtic this season?
I know James wanted to touch on this, so I'll just briefly mention it. Obviously, the 4-0 game against the Rotten Mob at Celtic Park. Don't worry, mate. I'm not going to any detail. I'll leave it to you, pal. But I tell you,
half a miss list anyway.
Don't worry, mate. That's yours. I think the game that I actually kind of, I know there's a lot of games, right? But the game that I think could be very substantial in the long run was the very first game. So obviously we opened up the league campaign at home against Aberdeen. We ended up winning 2-0. And after the game, Ange came out with some comments, and he definitely aimed it towards Jota in particular. And it was almost regards of like, you know, we're not here to showboat, we're not here to kind of underestimate the opponent. We're here to come out, get the job done, and get the 3 points. That's it. We need total professionalism. We need focus. We need concentration. We don't need any of that. Obviously, this isn't me paraphrasing them, but it's kind of along the same lines. We don't need any of the Billy Big Bollock stuff. So I think because of the fact that we went and won the league last year, there could have potentially have been some kind of cocky performances. And I think that was Big Ange just kind of giving a bit of a verbal slap, saying, listen, enough of the childish antics. These are professionals. These are big guys. We've got jobs to do. Get on with it. Enough of the nonsense. And I think that's kind of set the tone for the entire season, because other than the odd wee blip here and there, it has been total professional. It's been composed. It's just been solid for the most part. And we have went out and done the job kind of early. And even when we haven't done that, we went right to the last moment when we've had to, because football's it used to be a 90-minute game. Now it's like a 98, 99-minute game because of VAR, but we're still going to the very, very end if we need to, and the guys are putting everything into the game. So it was good to hear that for the manager, especially after the first game, and especially after you'd won 2-0 at home.
Aye, indeed. And of course, that warning about you need to take your chances. He said that in the very first game of the season, and who would have known that would have been a stark reminder of how our European campaign kind of fizzled out. James, what would you say your most memorable game was? Was it, as Paddy said, the 4-0?
I think it's got to be honest, the 4-0 game. Just obviously, with being so early in the season, you had every day, you had quite a few pundits tipping Rangers to win the league. Even get into that game, a lot of people were fancying them to turn the Azure, and then just to go out and have the game finished again after 45 minutes. It was different class. Obviously, Jota's goal was just the kind of cherry and top of the icing. But absolutely brilliant. Am I right in saying that was taking us into the Real Madrid game as well? Was that the week before the Madrid game?
It was,
Aye. So opening up, I think it was 5 points gap. We opened up at that point. You're getting into the Real Madrid game, and you're just obviously hoping we kick on. Obviously, it didn't really turn out that way. But just at that time, I mean, it's still here, but the feel-good factor about the club and the supporters and everything. And then obviously you've got McLaughlin's assist for Turnbull, which just topped it off the greatness of that day.
So we played the Rotten Mob on the 3rd of September, and then we played Real Madrid on the 6th. So Saturday to Tuesday, you're right, mate.
Very true, mate. I guess my most memorable game is the 4-3 against Hearts, which was just roughly about a month ago now. That's another good one for Baldy Trucker, for Andy. The 9-0 against Dundee United, where Abada and Kyogo got hat-tricks. But the 4-3 against Hearts, for me, every time that you play Hearts at Tynecastle, there's always something about it. There's always going to be a bit of needle anyway. The atmosphere is always red hot. I love beating them over there. And the fact that it was 4-3, it added to the occasion, to the spectacle. And the other thing which enhanced the experience, which probably makes it more memorable for me, is it's the first domestic Celtic game which featured VAR as well, with the controversy about the handball, with them getting 2 penalties. It looked like, as you know, the common theme is now, we have to beat both the opposition and VAR and the referees. Everything was kind of conspiring against us, but Greg Taylor's goal, with about 15 minutes remaining in that game, the smile on his face, everybody was jumping, and we were just buzzing to go on and do a podcast afterwards. It was such a feel-good factor. Definitely for me, the most memorable game. And I think it'll be hard to forget that one. But of course, we are kind of 9 points ahead now, going into the break, and it's testament to the players and to Ange. So I guess I want to ask, James, who's your standout performer?
See, to be honest, I think there is only one right answer to that question to this point in the season, and it's not even to say that everybody else in the squad has been below par. It's just that I feel as if we've rotated the squad quite well, and we've rotated this player quite often as well recently. But I think it's got to be absolutely a country mile Greg Taylor. I don't think there can be anybody else in the question, to be honest.
I actually feel bad because I wrote down Rio Hatate, but you've totally convinced me.
Right, that's it. You need to leave.
Aye, Greg Taylor. What more can you say about him? Well, we spoke about him last season, potential captain material, and it gets scoffed at. But he's proven everybody wrong. You know, like he didn't come from the kind of Celtic background as such, but Mr. Consistent. And whenever you've got Callum McGregor out, been injured for a sustained period of time, to see Greg Taylor being the understated captain as such, you know, he's not the captain, but he's acting like a leader on the pitch and off the pitch. And a lot of people wrote him off for Europe as well, James. You know, people last season said he'll be good enough for the domestic games, but not good enough for Europe. And ironically enough, he was one of our most consistent players in Europe. He didn't really get found out all that much compared to maybe some other people. But Paddy, hard to argue with that one.
Absolutely, and just to echo what James says, I think he's definitely been the standout this season. His consistency, his effort, his approach to everything. I think the biggest kind of surprise this season has been how much, I think you probably said this earlier on, but how much his leadership qualities are shining through in the games. I do remember Ange said that, I'm sure it was early on this season, it was one of the kind of interviews with Celtic TV, and it was like, who's the kind of the big characters in the dressing room kind of thing, and he says, well, obviously you've got Calmac, who's the captain, you've got James McCarthy there, who's a big, strong, experienced figure, he says, but other than that, he says Greg Taylor is absolutely massive in the dressing room, and he's just such a huge, influential character for all the guys. So when I heard that, I was like, "Mon big man, what you've been into the fucking castle man before you came on for an interview." But no, it's definitely coming through. And I think one of the games, and I can't remember which one for the life of me, but after Calmac got injured, and obviously Carter Vickers has taken the armband, there was a huddle. I'm sure it was a European game. There was one of the huddles at Parkhead, and Greg Taylor's actually the guy that's dishing out the orders. And you're like, what's he doing? I thought Carter Vickers was the captain, and Big Vickers is just kind of hulked over with the fucking the death stare, and there's wee Taylor telling everybody their jobs, and right away I was like, right, I get it now, I understand it. But then the performances are showing it as well, because he's here, he's there, he's everywhere, he's defending, he's kind of popping up midfield in that inverted fullback area, he's spreading the ball out well, his distribution's been fantastic this season, I think, and obviously he's added goals into his game as well for Celtic.
Well, just to touch on, literally, I was just going to say, my thing with Greg Taylor, and I've said it 100 times last season, I was a wee bit late to the Greg Taylor party, even when everybody was saying, oh, he's brilliant, he's really kicked on. Admittedly, I'm not really seeing it just yet. And my main criticism was he wasn't particularly good at anything. He was just kind of average across the board. He wasn't quick, he wasn't strong in the tackle, he wasn't scoring, he wasn't assisting. He didn't have a standout attribute. But literally, I can't disagree with a word you've said there. Absolutely every part of his game has come on leaps and bounds in the last year or so. I think I read a thing on Twitter. It said in his younger days at Kilmarnock, he actually used to play as a centre mid. So obviously, with the way we play football, that's obviously helped him out massively as well. But you can't praise him enough this season. I don't think he's let us down once.
I can't disagree with that at all. And talking about kind of performers, who do you think? I'm looking at the stats right now. Domestically, who, Paddy or James, who do you think has got the most assists for Celtic this season?
O'Reilly.
Yeah, O'Reilly with 7.
Is it?
Aye. He's played 15 games and he's got 7 assists. No goals. Who do you think comes next?
Jota.
I mean, fucking James is on fire. Jota's got...
Right. I'm away. I'll see you two later.
Aye. And even like people like Maida and Turnbull, they've been contributing as well with 4 apiece as well. Top scorers though, Kyogo, he's got 10. Abada gets 7. Again, Abada, like his numbers are just always standing out, even though a lot of people still haven't made their mind up about him yet. Like, I'm talking about myself here. Giakoumakis, he's got 6, and Jota has got 5 as well. Best moment. I'll take the lead for this one. James, you actually mentioned it earlier on. The game against the Rotten Mob. We're already 3-0 up. We scored 3 in the first half. And we're trying to do better than what we did the previous season, where we scored 3 against them. But in the second half, there was no goals. But McLaughlin, their goalkeeper, in the second half, he handed it on a plate to us. He was trying to pass it to the back. Well, you're 3-0 down. Like, what the fuck are you thinking? What are you doing? He tries to pass it to the back and he hits it pretty much straight to Turnbull, who Turnbull just gobbles up that chance. And that was, there was already going to be humiliation by beating them 3-0, but the manner with which they capitulated, it was the icing on the cake. It was fantastic. So that was my best moment of the season. Beating them at home, nothing much is better than that, and from a footballing perspective. But the manner which how they crumbled, it was delicious. Paddy, what was your most memorable moment?
I can't deviate away from that, mate. It was glorious again, because the last time we played them at Celtic Park, we blew them away. First half we blew them away. Last season it was 3-0, and then the first game of the season, I think it was yourself that said it earlier. Or it might have been James. It's funny to you anyway. The pundits were still giving it. Oh, we're going to tip them to win the league, and they're going to come back bigger and better. Blah blah blah. Blah 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 blah. And then first game at Celtic Park, what happens? We beat them even more than we did last season. Beat them 4-0. Absolutely thrashed them. You had Jota chipping the keeper. The keeper making an absolute arse of it. Fucking magic. Love beating them, but I love us beating them with loads of goals and loads of in your face stuff and get up ease.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, I would have to say Giakoumakis' last gasp winner.
That's what I've went for as well.
Only a few weeks ago.
Aye, I've got that and Kyogo against Dundee United. Pretty much the same. But aye, you go for hating the world, wanting every day hung drawn and quartered, and then 30 seconds later the world is all good again.
Aye. They actually equalised in stoppage time, didn't they? And then 2 minutes later we equalised, the 95th minute. Oh, that was outrageous, man. Fucking outrageous.
Gav, do you think that's better than Ralston's last season against Ross County?
I would say, it's difficult. It's a really good question. I would say Ralston just takes it, because at that point, the gap between us and the Rotten Mob was much, much closer.
Yeah.
And yeah. I would go for Ralston, but just by a smidgen, mate.
Just by an inch.
Yeah, totally. There's an interesting debate going on in the comments about, I think it was Frank Brennan who reminded us that we're coming up to the 30th year anniversary of Fergus McCann, and how he's is it fair to say he's a polarising figure in Celtic's history, Paddy? Because I was just going to kind of continue on with that Woodsy followed it up with, we should name the North Stand after him, and that's something that we did mention a couple of weeks ago, I think, on the pod, although I think there might have been a mixed reaction to that. But do you think it is reasonable to describe him as a polarising figure in Celtic's history?
Oh, aye, absolutely. I think time's been kind to some of the opinions about Fergus McCann, because I know and I understand why he was a kind of a hate figure among some of the Celtic support back in the day. He'd come out and kind of bashed some of the Celtic support and kind of some of the songbook and whatnot. There was the business aspects as well. First and foremost, your Cadetti's leaving, your Van Hooydonk's leaving, and then there was the kind of the saga with Wim Jansen, the guy who stopped the 10, came in, and then he was away again. So you can understand why it was a bit of a hate figure back then. But as I say, time's a great healer, and I think a lot of the people, kind of realise that they're maybe a wee bit out of order. And listen, the guy the guy was a major influence in saving this club. So for anybody to do that is he's part of Celtic folklore. And since obviously he came into the club, Celtic have gone from strength to strength, and almost a case his legacy lives on. Do you know what I mean? Because we're one of the best well-run clubs in the world, given what stature and given what position being stuck in Scottish football. So aye, fair play to him. I don't think I would be naming Stanza for the obvious reasons that I said the last time, that I don't think that he would want that himself, because he was a Celtic supporter, he was a businessman. He came in, he said what he said. Sorry, he did what he said he was going to do. He's going to come in, buy Celtic, pay off the debts, save the club, and walk away with money. He did that. Everybody's happy. And I'm actually quite glad that the last time he came over to Celtic Park, he got a rousing reception. Fair play.
Yeah. James, I don't know if you've ever known this or heard about this. A rumour that I read on Celtic Wiki, by the way, a very, very interesting website, Celtic Wiki, filled with weird and wonderful facts about Celtic. But there was a rumour that Fergus McCann, whenever he was in charge of Celtic, he wanted to incorporate a Scottish thistle into our logo. Can you imagine if that took place? I think he would have been hated if that happened. Fortunately, he realised, he read the room, and he realised that that's not something that could ever happen, and the plans failed to materialise. But can you imagine if that would have happened?
Aye, right decision was made there. See, just in the topic of the badge, a wee random question.
Oh, get him!
The wee bits at the side, the wee kind of...
the wee jaggy lines.
Did he represent something? Was that just part of the design? Use of off-roads again.
It looks like a bat.
Aye, that's what I was going to say. Aye. I was just wondering if it represents some. Some have always wondered, but never actually bothered to Google.
It's actually a very good question. My shame to say I don't know.
Kill that conversation, aye.
I know. Frank Brennan, Fergus was a hate figure amongst a tiny minority of the support, and similar to the Morons who picked on Tierney, and he had to be obnoxious or anxious in your face. I don't know. In your face. By the way, I've got to hold my hands up. When I was a child, after we won the league in '97, the following season when we unfurled the flag, it felt like the entire stadium was booing him, and I was there. I never said to MD, "Shut up." He's a really nice guy, so I must be part of that. However, years later, I recognised that. And I think a lot of people disliked him for, amongst other things, Wim Jansen had left right after winning, and everybody blamed Fergus for that. I'm sure Fergus, he was certainly to blame to an extent, but he had a very, very strict policy, and it just wasn't going to work out. I think the writing was on the wall anyway. I think Wim Jansen had told Murdo McLeod he was going to believe in that things just weren't working out. But I was actually there on the day when Fergus got booed. And I was also there many years later when he came back, and he received the reception that his legacy deserved. So anyway, moving on.
By the way, Gav, sorry, there's Michael Ross. It's a disgrace, Frank. I don't know what the conversation was. My apologies. God bless Tommy Burns. I forgot to actually say that Tommy Burns was obviously one of the reasons why Fergus McCann was a bit of a hate figure as well, because Tommy Burns, Mr. Celtic, the local lad, Carlton boy, he had a few run-ins with McCann and ended up leaving the club. So I think there was a wee bit of bad blood there between certain sections of the Celtic supporters because of that as well. So, aye, Tommy Burns.
Right, okay, so what we talking about the World Cup? Oh, fuck, no, one other thing. We're still doing the mid-season review. Totally forgetting about that. Europe, I guess. Let's talk about Europe. So I think there was a kind of. You laughed at comments. You laughed at me, mate.
No, I just. Can we just do a Brexit and never mind Europe? No, I'm only kidding, mate. But
Right, so Real Madrid, Leipzig, and Shakhtar. A lot of people were writing off Shakhtar despite their long relationship with the Champions League, because of the circumstances in Europe and the fact that they were displaced playing in Poland. Leipzig, a lot of people mitigated their threat by saying, well, the rotten mob put them out of Europe last season, so if they can do it, we can do it. And of course, Real Madrid, everybody was kind of just happy to play them to an extent. Although there were some people cavalier enough, callous enough to say that we can go through and we can finish second in the group. People were expecting 6 points from home, maybe even 9 points from home. James, after the opening game when we played Real Madrid, I had the effect of making people even more positive, more ambitious, more favourable about our luck, our chances of progressing, because we competed well for an hour, and then we kind of get tired. We made a couple of silly mistakes, and of course Real Madrid, they turned the screw, they scored 3 goals, and that was that. But a lot of people were encouraged by that performance, and people became more optimistic about our chances in the remaining games. But how things changed, do you think that game was just a kind of a false illusion that gave people a false impression, false hope?
Nah, not really. See, to be fair, that's probably the story of the group stage through all the games. Even the Leipzig games, maybe no so much, because I don't think we maybe played as we should have in both games against Leipzig, more so the home game. But see, to be honest, see, even Real Madrid. I mean, you got to be lucky to even take a point off them home or away. But see, when you look at the balance of chances, even a game in the Bernabeu, I mean, I know obviously the scoreline tells a different story, but even earlier, we had chances the same way we did at Parkhead as well. The Shakhtar away game, to this day, I still don't know how we managed not to win that. That's probably the one you look back on and you think, right, that was an easy 3 points that we've slipped up on there. But the Leipzig games are the disappointment for me. As I've said on here before, when the group was drew, I would have took your horn off for third. I would have been happy with that. That would have been kind of progression for me. Well, obviously into the next round, but in the sense of the team in Europe. But looking back, we played well, but I think overall you'd have to say it as a disappointment. But then at the same time, as I've seen in the comments, there 100%, it is a learning curve. You just hope this time next year we're the better for it. Players are another year older. They've now got that experience under their belts, and we just hope we kick on, and the chances that we create, we actually take them next year.
Mm-hmm. I guess the most disappointing result for me was away to Shakhtar, where we had them on the ropes. We conceded a daft goal. Mudryk clip. In fact, it wasn't a daft goal, but we conceded, but we had ample opportunity to get the winner. We were head and shoulders better than them. And whenever we did the podcast that night, I was crestfallen. I was just so disappointed. Paddy, if the domestic campaign, if you want to say that would be a 5-star rating, how would you rate the European campaign? And of course, if you put it into perspective, last season we were new to it. We were playing in a lower caliber competition, and we were learning about ourselves, learning about our capabilities and getting to know each other. But this year, the competition went up massively. And although we were in a better shape, better position, the competition, the gulf was maybe a wee bit too much to bridge. So again, if it was a 5-star performance for the domestic, how would you rate the European? And one other question about the European campaign: is it a time for scapegoats, or would you just say we need to take collective responsibility as a team and just look forward to next year?
If I'm rating out of 5, I would probably say a strong 2.5. Clearly there was issues there that we failed on, but I think if you look at it, it was our first season in the Champions League. We've not played there consistently at all in many years, so it's very hard just to toddle in and be the fucking big boys in Europe, especially when we've got so much of a gap. When we go from domestic level to European, it's very, very hard to bridge because we're not used to it. But I think the good thing for me, and maybe a lot of folk, was that like even Real Madrid game, everybody that I spoke to, everybody that I know, myself included, were all very optimistic about that game. You know, nobody was walking up to Celtic Park going, "Oh, for fuck's sake, we're playing Real Madrid tonight, we're going to get scudded." I never heard that once. I heard everybody was full of positivity. Everybody was like, "No, I think we could take something off of them," because that's what the manager, the team, the players have installed and the atmosphere at Celtic Park and as Celtic supporters. So for us to go out for the first 50, 60 minutes and be the better team was extremely encouraging. Obviously, Callum McGregor hits the post. You could have been 1-0 up against the world champions, current European champions, the best team ever in history, the best club in history, the most successful club in history. No charlatans. Abada could have scored. So we had so many chances and we took the game to Real Madrid. And the most positive thought that I can have about that game is that our standards and our approach in that game, Real Madrid had to raise their levels to the levels of Real Madrid to beat us. I know on paper that they beat us flat. They beat us 3-0. But that was the 3-0 game. You know, Luka Modric had to turn into fucking Ballon d'Or Modric against us. So that's the kind of opposition that we came up against, and that's the type of performance that we made them turn out. And I think even Ancelotti said it as well. You know, he was very, very respectful, very positive about Celtic's approach. The Shakhtar games, that's the games that you were hoping on paper at least that you would have got potentially 6 points for. Just unfortunately, we came up against a guy called Mudryk, who is going to be a top world-class player for years to come. I'm very, very sure of it. Leipzig, I know Leipzig was a hard one because before we played them, they'd suffered defeat. The manager gets sacked. Fucking Dominic Tedesco. I know you like his name because you like the wee song. And they got Marco Rose in. But by the time that we eventually got them, they had turned the corner. They had that bounce back ability because of the new manager type thing coming in. But they were a very, very good team when we played them. Very composed on the ball. They've got a lot of superstar players as well. You know, don't forget they just re-signed Timo Werner for like 35 million. Christopher Nkunku is valued at about 90 million. You know, this is the types of guys that we're coming up against in the Champions League. So I think, although it certainly wasn't anywhere near good enough in terms of results, in terms of points on the board, I think we can still hold our head up high that we went into these games with a positive approach and we actually tried to go and play football against these teams. We're a new team, we're a manager who'd never played the Champions League. Many, many players within the squad who'd never ever played the Champions League, still very, very inexperienced. So, we missed chances. Kyogo fluffed his lines up 10 times. You know, Maeda fluffed his lines. This one missed a sitter, that one missed a sitter. It's kind of the same old kind of bad luck story for Celtic, but it's still a bit positive for me because I think what everybody else says, this season will be a massive learning curve. If we go into the Champions League next season, which I'm pretty sure that we will, if we retain the nucleus of this squad, that squad they will have Champions League experience. They'll know the levels that they need to rise up to. And hopefully, if we get in a couple of key additions, maybe a couple of upgrades, then we can perform very, very much better next season in the Champions League. And you're only going to do that, mate. You're only going to be a good Champions League club if you have consistency. And I mean consistency as in appearances in the Champions League. You can't, as I say, you can't just walk in one year and expect to fucking have fireworks. You know what I mean? You need consistency. And that's going to happen under Postecoglou. He said it. He said, I don't want us to just be a team that gets there this season, maybe next season. I want us to be there every single year because that's the level that we should be playing at. That's our ceiling. That's where we should be aspiring to be at, is playing in the Champions League every year. So it's got to be done. And I believe him. I believe it will happen.
Well said, mate. Well said. Good comments there. James, before I get your thoughts on that, there's one comment for Forever and Ever Celtic. He said, you can't knock the optimism of any football fan going to a game and hoping for a result, even against the Madrids of this world. That's why we go to games from the lowest league to the highest. Very well said. James, hope is something that's the last thing to die with a football fan. And I guess the room for improvement for me, if we look at the kind of mid-season review, is, of course, Europe. And Paddy was talking about us growing collectively as a group and taking the chances next season. So how optimistic are you that we can try and make our mark a little bit more next season by playing this positive football?
I'd be very confident, to be honest. Obviously, a lot depends on the draw for the group stages. I think the draw was probably favourable to us this time around. So you need to hope for the same again next year. But time will tell, I suppose. But as you say, like noticing the difference in the players. Like for me personally, Abada was the main one you noticed the difference with. The chances he missed, I'm sure he missed one against Real Madrid right at more or less for the kick-off as well. But then you see him against Dundee United when he scores the fourth, the wee dinker, the keeper. See if that ball gets stars on it, it's going in the car park. So it's hopefully just that we kind of switch, and as I say, there'll be a year better for it. So hopefully we kick on next year.
I think she talked about Jota, other than the last game against Real Madrid. And I know he missed a couple of games with injury, but I think Jota was one of the guys who, for me, kind of struggled to make the step up for being the big dog in Scottish football, to playing against like your Real Madrids and this and that. Especially the Real Madrid game, I thought it was terrible. And I know he was up against kind of world class fullbacks and that, so I'm not really going to have a go at him for his attacking sense. It was more the fact that he left Greg Taylor very much exposed on the left hand side far too many times. He wasn't tracking his man back. He wasn't getting involved. He wasn't switched on. I think the game, as I say, when you come for playing against like your Ross Counties against St Mirren's, no offence to anybody, but then you go and play Real Madrid and Shakhtar, it's a totally different ballgame. And the game is amplified by about 10 times the speed, the ferocity, the pressure. These things can happen, and I think Jota, being a young guy, you could see the frustration in him, and you could see that he knew he was better than that, and everybody knows that. Do you know what I mean? And obviously, by the time he came to play Real Madrid at the Bernabeu, you could see that he had a bit of swagger back, he had a bit of confidence back about him, and then he goes and he's probably fulfilled his dream of scoring a goal at the Bernabeu against Thibaut Courtois, one of the best keepers in living history. So they things will stand better for players like that getting into next season. Greg Taylor, he's popped his cherry in the Champions League, and he's performed very, very admirably. I would say your Carter Vickers, your Yensis, guys like that who come into the Champions League and very, very un-Celtic like. We actually played the ball about consistently at the back. You know, we kept possession well, something that Celtic defences have never, ever done. As far as I'm concerned, in the Champions League, we've always been under pressure. We've always been playing hoofball. But between Hart, the centre-backs, and the two full-backs, we've played very, very well. You know what I mean? We've played consistently, we've played strong, played brave, and we've done it well. So that was one of the big positives for me coming to the Champions League.
One of the things I feel, just to add on to that as well, and I don't think it will happen because I don't think it's kind of in Angie's style, but one thing I think we miss, and obviously it's easy to name, but see like a Wanyama type player. I know a lot of people say it, but there was a lot of the games, I think it was the first Real Madrid goal at Parkhead, I could be mistaken there, but the ball kind of breaks in the halfway line, and I think it's Carter Vickers is there, and he kind of tries to go for it, but he knows obviously he's the last man. And I just feel if we had a midfielder there that will just stay back, no ball going forward, but just somebody that would tackle their granny and just absolutely destroy everything, as I say, like a Wanyama type. And because I felt as if even, I mean, Real Madrid, as I say, I mean, they can still comfortably beat you whether you play that type of player or no. But even against like Shakhtar, home and away, the away game, I just felt we didn't even look like conceding, but then all of a sudden, briefly, it gets turned into a game of basketball again, and you've conceded a goal. Similar to as you were saying, the Mudryk goal at Parkhead. See, for me, I think it's Juranovic that's chasing him back. pull him to the ground, take a booking, reset and go again. That I just feel as if that's something maybe been a wee bit more streetwise, and maybe adding a player in there. Obviously, McGregor being injured's a massive miss as well, but adding a player in there that's sole focus is just to break up the play and then let your O'Reilly and Hatate go on and play their more natural game further forward. I feel that would make a massive difference. Everybody was saying this is what this Ablegor was meant to be, but obviously we've not seen enough of him. And there are possibly two things that I'd like to add. I still think, regardless, Champions League or Europa League, Conference League, whatever, I'd like to see somebody else come in and take Starfelt's place, a starting centre back, and possibly a new goalie.
That's what I want to hear. Ruthless decisions about upgrading first team players. I want to hear more of that. Well done, James. I asked Paddy a couple of weeks back.
I'll just add into that as well, Gav, just to tap into James's answer there. Totally agree with you about the kind of the midfield general. I mean, you look at the greatest teams in the world, like you Patrick Vieira, you Roy Keane, like Casemiro for Real Madrid, N'Golo Kante, your Busquets. You've always got to have somebody there that kind of dominates the midfield, and you need to have a balance. I think, see, when you've got all these guys that can play lovely football and be nice on the ball, you still need an ugly person, not necessarily in the face, but like an ugly player. Mudryk was one of the instances where the team, you could see the deficiencies and the physicalities there, because he was like a horse. He was almost a bit Samaras-esque, like nobody could see when he was in full flow. You couldn't stop him. He just ran by everybody. It was like a game of FIFA. He just kept running, and nobody could get near him. But the one that kind of stood out for me a lot was actually the Leipzig game, at Celtic Park. And it was before the guys had even got out of the pitch. Obviously, the players are lined up in the tunnel, and you've got the camera kind of panning down on the two squads in the tunnel. And I was like, fuck me, man. There was all the Leipzig players, and there was the Celtic players. They all looked absolutely tiny. And then that's what happened as soon as the Leipzig players got out onto the pitch. Apart from the fact that they showed themselves to be a great team, they kept possession well. You can see their formations, their tactics kind of moving about as is expected now in modern football. But they guys just physically dominated us for pretty much the entire match. So I would absolutely 100% love to see a big smasher or a smasher coming into midfield. I think Giakoumakis could be utilised more in Europe because of his physicality. And I would love to see another defender coming in, a Bobo Baldi-esque type player. But Joe Hart, I see where you're coming from. He has been a great servant thus far for Celtic. I still think he's got plenty left in him. I'm more than happy to have Siegrist there in the squad as well. I think he's going to be a good backup, and he will push Hart to an extent. But I think potentially we might have to be looking towards the future. And if we're going to get potential superstars in, we might need to do that with somebody who's a bit younger.
Just to go back and touch on the Joe Hart thing. I mean, even looking back, obviously Fraser Forster, Craig Gordon, maybe to a lesser extent. Forster again, then obviously his fallback is Boric. We've always had keepers in our recent history that you can remember saves that they've made. Obviously, everybody remembers Forster against Barca, Boric's saves against AC Milan. I think Craig Gordon maybe know so much, but he did have his moments as well. Obviously, it went tits up towards the end. But Joe Hart, I think I'd struggle. I mean, I know one of the qualifiers last year he made a cracking save and it was celebrated like a goal, but I think that was more just after the back. We actually had a keeper that would use their horns and make saves. But I don't think there is a kind of like moment you'd go back in Europe this year and say, Joe Hart was brilliant in that game. And at the same time, it's not a slight in Hart because it's no saying that he's threw balls into the net at all. But I just don't think he's had that kind of standout performance in Europe that you'd maybe associate with Celtic.
I agree with you. I think that was actually one of the questions I was going to ask you. How long will Hart be with Celtic for? Can you see Ange being content with Hart being our number one? Or do you think he'll be studying a potential replacement for him? I think he's of that age where we should be looking for a potential replacement. Doesn't have to happen immediately, but we should be looking anyway. If we're not looking, then we're doing something wrong. So I agree with that. Guys, we've actually spoken for just over an hour on Celtic, which was surprising because we were also going to talk about the World Cup. So are you guys game to have a wee chat about the World Cup before we conclude for this season? Yeah, fantastic. Right, guys. So with the World Cup commenced, I think it's going to be on Sunday.
Sunday, yeah.
It would be remiss of us not to actually talk about it. We're going to have to talk about it. It's still football at the end of the day. It is the sport that we love. So we're going to do a wee feature talking about, from a nostalgic point of view, what's your most memorable childhood tournament and why do you remember about it fondly? What sticks out at you? So, James, I think you were going to go for 2002. That's in Japan and South Korea. Is that correct?
Aye, 2002 for me. As I say, I vaguely remember wee bits of 98, but the first kind of proper I can remember everything is 2002, and that opened up with one of the kind of more memorable moments. I'm sure it was the first game was France against Senegal, and Senegal beat France 1-0. And it was a celebration that I always remember. The guy taking his tap off and they laid it down and they all started dancing around about it.
Was that Papa
Papa
Diop?
That's the one, aye. And it was the head thing with, his name just went right out of my head. Guy spat in the Celtic supporter for Juff, Elhad's Juff, aye. They had him as well, aye. But France, just getting into that, just touching on France, they won it in 98, didn't they, the world champions?
They did, yes, they did.
And then they went out in 2002 without scoring a goal, out in the groups. And the other kind of moment that sticks out for me as well, obviously the Brazil team was different class, obviously went on to win it. But do you remember Rivaldo's dive against Turkey?
Yeah.
That was, that was because the guy gets sent off as well for that, I'm sure. And then obviously Rivaldo went on and get fined. But just overall, obviously you had Thingway as well. Fuck, I'm doing well with names tonight. Ronaldinho against David Seaman. 30 yards. Aye. And then obviously Robbie Keane's last minute equaliser against Germany. But see, even just the kind of overall, the players that played in that tournament, some of them were frightening because Batistuta was still kicking about in 98, and then you had like Hernan Crespo coming in as well. Obviously, pretty much the full Brazilian team. Ronaldo, different class, top goal scorer. Rivaldo, Ronaldinho, as I said. Rui Costa, Figo was at the peak of his powers. Del Piero, Miroslav Klose, that was actually his first World Cup. And then obviously you've got Larsson as well. And the thing that I actually looked this up earlier, because I had it in my head, but I couldn't remember if I was right or not, so I looked it up. Am I right in saying that we, inverted commas, replaced Larsson with Henri Camara?
Aye. No, that was 2004.
Aye, but I mean, when Larsson left, was Henri Camara our next number 7?
Aye, we signed him for...
Signed
him...
it
was Henri Camara. We signed him on loan for Wolves for 1.5 million, I think. And I'm sure Bellamy came after that.
Well, in that 2002 World Cup, Sweden played Senegal. I think it was around a 16. And Senegal won 2-1 after extra time, and it was Henri Camara. It scored the both of them, and Larsson scored for Sweden. So is Henri Camara a better player than Larsson? No.
Is that a rhetorical question? Or?
Absolutely, yes.
Do you know, see, for that tournament, I think my favourite goal in that tournament, apart from every single one that was scored against England, was was that the one Larsson scored the diving header?
I think that was the Euros.
Was that the Euros? Yeah. Right, okay, I'm talking straight there. Ronaldinho's going against the Seaman. Magic.
Paddy, what tournament were you going for?
Oh, mate, easy one. World Cup 1998. It's probably the only World Cup I ever remember enjoying. Absolutely loved it. I remember it. I had when I used to buy the record, when it was all right to buy the record. I remember I had a big pull out, a big spread, and it was up my bedroom wall. And I remember running back to school every day to fill out the team charts, like this one won, that one won. I know, but no, I was actually reminiscing about the World Cup a wee bit. So I think that one was the first. I think that was the first World Cup where they extended the teams for something like 20 odds to like 32, which kind of gave more impetus for other teams to come in and have a go. And I think if you all look back, that World Cup, it was very attack-minded. You know, there wasn't a lot of teams coming in and playing like a Catenaccio style or defensive football. Everybody was kind of there. They were all ready to have a go. The golden goal was first introduced at that World Cup. And I believe somebody scored it, and they're still the only person to have scored a golden goal at a World Cup, and it was Laurent Blanc for France. I think that might have been in the quarters.
Was that no Lilian Thuram?
No, the golden goal.
I don't know.
I'm sure it was. I might be wrong, but I'm sure it was. Who did I say? Laurent Blanc.
Laurent Blanc.
Laurent Blanc. Aye.
Lilian Thuram scored a double in one of the games, I think.
I think he did. Aye.
Gav's
Gav's we can hear you.
Well, Henri Camara scored a golden goal at World Cup as well, so is he better
Did he?
than Laurent
All
Blanc?
right, okay.
Aye, that was that Senegal game. Aye, Senegal-Sweden game. As I say, I had it in my head earlier, and then it just dawned on me who it was I thought that scored, so I had to double check it. But aye, Henri Camara scored a golden goal. So was he better than Laurent Blanc and Henry Larsson?
Is that a rhetorical question?
That is a rhetorical question again, yes.
But do you know what sticks in my mind as well about the World Cup 1998? Is for me it was the last World Cup of a generation. You know, you had guys like fucking Romario still played for Brazil, kind of guys like that, and it was like you look at the wingers. The wingers were proper old school wingers. Like a left winger was a left winger who would get down the box and cross the ball with his left foot. Same again with the right. You had players trying to score headers. They were getting crosses in, like that kind of old school. It's no that inverted winger type stuff. Nobody was trying to pass the ball into the net. Everybody was willing to ping off shots for everywhere. And I actually sat the other day and watched all the goals, and I think I can count on one hand the amount of kind of snidey goals it was. All of them were top class.
You know that France actually won that tournament without having a centre forward who scored a goal. Wasn't it Stefan Guivard who eventually signed for the Rotten Mob?
Was that 98? When did he sign for him?
Oh, like the year after. Well, that was a belter of a World Cup. I'm a Brazil fan, and I've supported them since 1994. So I was gutted whenever they get beat 3-0 by France in the final. I didn't see it coming. 3-0 in the final, and Ronaldo taking that. You didn't really know. You knew that there was something wrong. You heard about it, and then like, is he going to play? Is he not going to play? He plays, but he was a shadow of himself, and that's the player that the team looked up to. Obviously, Rivaldo was fantastic in that tournament, but Ronaldo, the main man, it was a horrible final for me to watch. I've never been a big France fan, but
big Zizou was one of my heroes growing up. Obviously, I love the real Ronaldo, the only Ronaldo. But I don't know if you remember, Gav, or if you've ever heard. Have you ever heard any of the kind of theories or conspiracies regarding that game?
I'm sure. Like McGinty is one of the types of characters who would have a few conspiracy theories about that. But give me your worst.
So basically, there's kind of two kind of trains of thought. So Ronaldo's actually came out and spoke about this. So apparently, I think it was the night before the game, apparently had a kind of some sort of an epileptic seizure. Now, Ronaldo never had epilepsy or whatnot. Apparently, Roberto Carlos had to kind of rush to his aid. He was taking a fit, foaming at the mouth, all this kind of stuff. And
Mark Camus just fell off my boat. Sorry.
It's a sign.
Fair enough. It's a ghost. And apparently Ronaldo was the playing in the game, He was replaced by a guy called who was it? Edmundo, I think it was. So apparently, up until like the last 15 minutes before kick-off, Edmundo's name was on the team board. And then apparently the guy who ran the Brazilian kind of federation for football came into the dressing room, spoke to the manager, walked out. Then the managers apparently went right up to the board, scrubbed out Edmundo's name and put Ronaldo on. So one of the theories behind that is that Nike and Adidas were kind of the biggest sponsors of that tournament. But Nike, as you can remember, probably for the kind of merchandise, the brilliant advert, the guys running through the airport, Nike sponsored Brazil. And apparently Nike gave X amount of money to the Brazilian Federation. And Nike potentially demanded that Ronaldo played in that game, or else they were going to kind of withdraw money or hold money back. So the guy for the federation came down and virtually made Ronaldo play. So if you look at the game, Ronaldo was very, very subdued. He was a shadow of a player. You know, he wasn't running about. He was kind of lost. So that's potentially a kind of a side effect to that. But that's one of the things I heard. And the other thing I heard was that probably tin hat kind of stuff was that Adidas somehow managed to rig the game by, what was it, Nick? It's somebody managed to rig the game and paid Brazil off. Says you lose the final to France and we'll give you a World Cup at some point soon in the future. And Brazil got a World Cup in 2014, so you never know.
Aye. So my World Cup would be 1994, despite being the same age as Paddy. The reason I remember 94 so well was because although I watched the games, I was lucky enough to have 2 video cassettes, and I watched them back repeatedly after the tournament finished, and it was just ingrained in my mind. All the games, the highlights. I'm just such a big fan of that. I've got a deep nostalgia for that. I've actually been collecting a few shirts from that era as well. And that was held in the USA, and the USA was never known, much like places like Qatar and Russia, etc., never known as a footballing country. But they had the infrastructure to be the host of this. They had massive stadiums, and just like Americans, they got right behind it. Their national team, that was a curious one because they never had a league at that point. You remember the old MLS, the old version where it had like people like George Best, who else? Pele and stuff like that. But that league was disbanded years back just because of lack of funding. It was a failed business venture. But whenever 94 came about, the USA never had a national league, and their national players comprised of college footballers and a handful of players who played in Europe. So they ended up getting this genius coach it was like a kind of a Sam Allardyce, who was like a specialist for relegations. They got this guy, and he basically treated the USA national team as a club team, and they played so many friendlies that despite the lack of talent, they just became so familiar as a unit that they became hard to beat. And that's what they were like. They wanted to avoid the ignominious failure of not being able to, as being the first host nation, not to be able to qualify from their group. And under this coach, they managed to do that. But so that was one interesting feature that I learned about. Of course, Diana Ross kicking things off. Whenever she had the open goal, the Americans with their big ceremonious openings, they did this thing. It was a fucking load of shite. You're just waiting for the World Cup to start for the kickoff for the first game, but they've got all these clowns on the pitch, and Diana Ross, she's just meant to kick it into the open goal, but she misses and puts it past the post. They also had the 3 tenors, Pavarotti and 2 other opera guys singing "I Want to Be in America." Just that nostalgia. I love that shit. So it was also the greatest football tournament for football shirt designs. Check out some of the beautiful football shirt designs. You've got the Germany home and away. You've got the Sweden away and home. Oh, it's beautiful. And I've actually got a couple with Last at the back. Love it, absolutely love it. And if anybody remembers the Mexican goalkeeper, James, have you ever heard this? George Campos. It looked like a fucking
loud shirts.
Peacock. He actually designed his own shots, man. And like he was like a wee tiny goalkeeper, but he was actually okay at being in goals. Very, very extravagant character. But another thing that people would appreciate, this World Cup, England failed to qualify for. So that's another reason why I'm happy to collect the shots from that tournament, because I'll never have to get an England top. Another one to remember is Stoichkov in Bulgaria. They were at their peak. Stoichkov, one of my favourite players from the 90s. They actually put out Germany. They were the holders from the previous one in 1990. Bulgaria beat Germany in the quarters, I think it was. A 2-1 victory with Lechkov scoring a diving header. And you had like Georgie Hagi as well. He was at his peak playing for Romania. And you had Ray Houghton, who scored a wee lob over Paluca. That was a famous win for Ireland against Italy. And Romario and Bebeto, they ended up like winning the tournament for Brazil, and they spearheaded the attack. And one of the most memorable games was Brazil when they wore the blue and they beat Holland. That was one of the most exciting games. It was 3-2 to Brazil. And Bebeto, after he scored his goal, he did the famous Rock the Baby celebration, which a lot of people kind of replicate now. So it all started for him. And James, you ever heard this?
Woodsy, come on, man.
You ever seen the Two Escobars, the film?
Great programme.
Fantastic.
I've seen a couple of movies, but not the Two Escobars.
I don't know if you remember that one then, Gav, no?
No, the movie. I know what happened with the guy for Colombia. He scored an own goal and he got shot. But
apparently, so the rumour goes, it was Escobar that put a hit out on him, and there's a film about it. The film's really, really good. I think it was an ESPN film. It used to be on YouTube. Get a watch. It's really, really good.
Fair dues.
Right, I've got a question for you. If you're finished, Gavin, you finished? Sorry, mate.
Waiting for me to finish. Right, a couple of other things. Oleg Selenko, he scored 5 goals. He signed for the Rotten Mob, but he had a shite career. Maradona, his goal celebration after his brilliant goal against Greece, and whenever he ran to the camera, you could just see that he was coked out his nut. He failed a drug test subsequently. And the Baggio penalty miss in the final, skied over the bar, and that sealed the victory for Brazil, and what was, to be honest, a very, very boring final. But that was me, 94. Paddy, what were you going to say?
Did Franco Baresi miss a penalty there as well?
Yes, Baresi missed too.
Fucking some legends there. Roberto Baggio, by the way, one of the worst haircuts you'll ever see. So here's one, right? So terrible, mate, terrible. It was like a perm / ponytail. Something that
worse than Ronaldo's, no too. That I may or may not have had.
You definitely had that. Right. So if we were to do scores, right, I don't suppose you know who sang the theme songs for your World Cups. I think you've got an idea who done 94, Gavin. Do tell.
The Three Tenors.
The Three Tenors. James, boy, you get an
I
idea?
don't know if that was the official one.
I couldn't even tell you what the O2 song was, to be honest.
I can't remember the name of it, but it was a guy called Vangelis, and he was most famous for kind of composing the Chariots of Fire music. So very, very versed guy. So guess who sang the theme song for my World Cup?
Ricky Martin.
Michael Jackson.
You fucking. How the fuck did you know that?
Oh, I'm on fire tonight.
How did you know that?
I don't know. As soon as you said that, I had Ricky Martin in my. I'm not going to lie.
So you get
Ricky Martin. It's normally up there.
So you get Ricky Martin on the brain, aye?
Aye, Ricky Martin daft.
Aye, Ricky Martin.
His one song.
Quite embarrassed. Aye, so we've got the Three Tenors, we've got Vangelis, and we've got fucking Ricky Martin.
Best World Cup song, Kanan, Waving Flag, 2010. Catchiest song you'll ever hear. I don't even know if it was the official song. It was in the Coca-Cola advert. Kanan, Waving Flag. I would sing it, but I'm not going to. You can YouTube it.
Yeah, by the way, talking about music, how annoying were they vuvuzelas at the South African World Cup?
Horrendous.
Absolutely
horrendous.
Right.
It was as if it was just like a big swarm of bees, wasn't it, every 2 seconds?
Yeah. Right, okay, so for this World Cup, predictions. Going to ask you, who's the strongest out of all the Europeans? And can Argentina and Brazil, are they the only realistic competitors to the Europeans? Because nobody else is what? No, Uruguay, they were the original winners. But Argentina and Brazil, I'm a Brazil man, so I'm going to say my prediction is Brazil to win. But who's the strongest out the Europeans?
I think France has probably got the strongest team, but they've not got the greatest manager. Germany, maybe. I can't see past Argentina.
Who's the French manager again? Is it Deschamps still?
Deschamps, aye.
Deschamps. By the way, what a player that was. Loved him as a player. Yeah, the water carry was his nickname. Talk about defensive midfielders. That's why I was thinking about that.
I wouldn't put him up there. Like, I know that he was good to play for Juventus and win it with France, but
no, mate,
you could break.
Top quality player. Top quality.
Maybe I'm being biased.
So you're going Brazil. You're going France.
No, I'm going Argentina.
Oh, sorry, Brazil, Argentina. Do you know what I honestly think? I think we might see a kind of different winner this year.
I think Belgium's time has passed.
Aye. Mm-hmm. Aye. I don't see Spain winning it. I don't think they're strong enough. I think they've got quite a young team as well, and some cracking players. I know young Gavin. He's been given the number 9 jersey, so I don't think that they've got like that kind of strong striker type in their team. Uruguay might be a shout. Might be an outside shout, because possibly. I think I read somewhere that they're planning on starting Nunes and Suarez up front. I know Suarez is kind of fucking past his peak, but still a very dangerous person.
What about England?
Fuck off. Oh, God, this is hard, isn't it?
I think if you're writing it, you're looking for an Argentina-Portugal final, aren't you? That'd be the best outcome.
Portugal?
I think Portugal have got any chance.
Well, I know the World Cup supercomputer that's predicted that Argentina's going to win. It would be nice. It would be nice to see Messi actually win a World Cup and then just kind of drop the mic and just retire. And say fuck you, Ronaldo, fuck you. I don't know. I really actually do hope it's a kind of outsider that wins it, because it's generally the same kind of teams, isn't it, that wins. I know the Euros, you've had a couple of different winners in that, but I'm going to go Serbia.
It's a school night. What you doing drinking?
Listen, by the way, Serbia's got a very good team. Mitrovic, I'm going to put money on him being top goal scorer.
I'm going to go Argentina, Lautaro Martinez, top goal scorer. My dark horses, if they can be even classed as dark horses, I'd go the Dutch.
The Dutch. I'm trying to even think of a potential top scorer. It's funny with Italy being out, man. But Brazil all the way for me, even though I can't stand Neymar. I just want to put that out there. I do not like Neymar. But I think defence, goalkeeper, midfield, attack, wingers, Brazil have got it all, man. They're not as strong as 2002, not as strong as 1998. But I think this is a year where France aside, France are very, very good on paper. But I think Spain are still a young team. Netherlands, they look to be a team in transition as well. A lot of people think Argentina, of course, but I don't know about Argentina's defence or their midfield. They've got people like Lo Celso trying to pull the strings.
By the way, there's Paul McFarlane How you doing, buddy? There he's saying Frimpong to score the winner in a World Cup final? Question marks. By the way.
Sorry, can I just jump
Sorry,
in
James.
just on that? Here a wee
No, you
quiz
can't.
question
Fuck
for
off.
you. Who is the last Celtic player to have played in a World Cup final?
Edson Braithwaite.
Bastard. That's one each for Ricky Martin then.
By the way, not long after coming on at Pataudry, it literally caused him 4 goals. And then the guy rocks up at a World Cup final.
And ears the ball back to the keeper. Do you mind that?
Oh,
Goes up to header it back to the keeper, gets it all rang, and it comes off his ear, but still goes to the keeper.
horrendous. Actually, one of the worst performances you'll ever see for a Celtic player. I was going to say, by the way, apparently, because Frimpong is playing at the World Cup, partly due to the sell-on clause, I think Celtic's going to be getting something like 1.5 million of it.
Really? Is it as much as that?
I think so,
That's fucking crazy.
That's great.
Well, I'll take it. I'll take it every day.
Right, you're fucking right. I'm going to change my team. I was only kind of jesting about Serbia, but I think they'll do well. I'm going to go. I'm just looking at the groups. Fuck it. I'm going to go for the fairy tale ending. Argentina. Lionel Messi to win the World Cup.
Maybe outside bet is that England won't go to their group.
Oh, who are they in group with? So England are in a
Wales,
group.
America, and
Iran, USA, and who's the other team?
Wales.
England, Wales, and IRA. Oh, sorry, Iran.
I'm saying Wales and America are getting out that group with England in third with 1 point.
There you are, there's Paul. Yes, that's true, Paddy. 1.5 million extra for Frimpong. That's a great fee.
I think Iran are going to stink the joint out with defensive football. I can't see Iran playing explosive football, put it that way. I think they're going to stink the joint out.
No, I don't think they're going to blow teams out of the water.
They could implode. You never know. No. I don't think they've got any dynamic in their team. Oh, right, okay. Well, we wrap it up for this evening then, unless we've got any other shite jokes.
Especially after that fucking da part of the.
Quite the bombshell.
Nuclear. Aye, so obviously, we're directly into it in the World Cup. So I don't know who is going to be staying up to watch Celtic, but I think on Thursday, our time, British Standard Time, I think Celtic play at 9:15 Thursday morning. And then I believe so that's obviously against Sydney, fucking whatever they are, Sydney somebody. And then we play Everton
Divine.
on what?
Divine.
Oh,
Eat my way.
aye, you're too young for stuff like that. Aye, 9:15, I think it is our time, Thursday morning, and then we play Everton, and I think that kick off is it no something? Is it aye, like 4 o'clock in the morning now?
Aye, 4:45 kick off. So we'll be on for the post match, I take it.
But listen, if you're up, we might do it. We might try and get this deal. You know what I mean, son, for that one. Anybody going to be watching the games? Anybody going to brave it? I know you two Bampots work for the house, so you have got every fucking opportunity.
Yes, I'll work for him on Thursday and I'll set an alarm for Saturday night.
Aye, if there's a will, there's a way. We'll see if I can get it on. Aye.
Nice one. I'll definitely try and watch the game Sunday morning. Saturday, Sunday. Is it Saturday to Sunday?
Saturday into Sunday, aye.
Right, that's fine. Aye, okay, I'll definitely watch that one. Any kind of surprises? Anybody you think will stand out? Players?
I think all eyes will be on Vata.
I think Aaron Moyle plays best game considering he's no there. By the way, sorry, just to get back, have you seen Australia's squad for the World Cup? I honestly think I'll
fucking-
be relegated to the SPL. It is horrendous.
By the way, a lot of them's coming for the SPL.
Aye. Aye, there's a couple for St Mirren, I think, isn't there? A couple for one for
Couple for St Mirren.
That'll be Cammy Devlin's gone for Hearts. But no, Jason Cummins at a World Cup. How's that happened?
Come dog.
Aye, he's shite, man. He's shite, but he's good enough for them.
So
It's a weird one.
you're going with Rocco Vata then, Gav?
Aye. Why not?
Next one.
Yourself?
Well, I think you may be right. I think he's going to get a couple of certainly going to get some game time. I think possibly more so against Sydney FC. Might get a wee cameo appearance against Everton. I'd be delighted if we beat Everton, not because I hate Everton, but because I hate Frank Lampard with a passion. So nice money maker for Celtic. Good break for the guys. Good experience. And homecoming. Great stuff. Making a bit of money as well.
So unless we're up to anything, then we'll just do another Tuesday TikTok. If we can, we might do a wee post-match review after the 2 games, but we'll see. If not, we'll be back on next Tuesday. Any further comments for you two guys before we wrap it up for this evening?
Absolutely not. Just delighted to be getting into the break. 9 points clear of our nearest rivals. Looking forward to the squad coming back refreshed. Looking forward to January to see who we can get in. And the boys will come back all guns blazing again, romping on for the title.
James, one last question. Do you think, and I know that we shouldn't really focus too much on it, but do you think Gio will still be in the dugout whenever the World Cup finishes?
Yes. I seen just before we come on Twitter that they were standing by him, so however long that lasts, who knows, but fingers crossed they don't poach Martindale.
Fantastic.
Jurgen Prop.
A street pharmaceutical salesman. Guys, thanks very much for tuning in. If you've not done so, can you please hit the like button? Catch us.
Ciao.